there are a lot of reasons players are labeled bust, whether it's, unrealized potential, whether it's failed expectations, whether those expectations were just or not. Players get the label of being called bust a lot. But there are players that even after getting the label of bust come back to be effective NBA players, albeit maybe not ever hitting that potential that they came into the league with. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about a handful of those players that have, in a lot of ways, broken the label of being labeled as bust earlier in their careers. We're going to talk about it all and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host here, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content. So, for those that don't know, the NBA used to have a Comeback Player of the Year award. This award has not been around since the 85-86 season when the league did away with the award. The award had only been around since the 1980-81 season. They decided to get rid of it. But I, for one, would not be mad at all with the NBA bringing that award back. I think there's a very different thing from most improved player and comeback player of the year. And I think that I would hope that at some point the NBA really does look to bring that back, in my opinion. But with that said, as I said in the intro, there are players that get the label of bust every single year, right? Whether they come through the draft, whether it's, them not living up to expectations. And sometimes those players kind of go away for a while. Maybe they dealt with some injuries. They come back and they turn into very solid, productive NBA players. I'm going to talk about 4 of those players on today's episode. The first one that I want to talk about is Jonathan Isaac. Yet most people understand what happened with what's going on with Jonathan Isaac, right? Jonathan Isaac, who came in and was kind of the prototype of the new modern power forward, what people expected from that. 6'10", having, long arms, a wingspan, can pass and shoot, can do a little bit of everything. And then right away during his his NBA career, he got hit with a major injury, only playing 27 games his rookie year and not looking anything like kind of the expectation around him. Now, he was able to bounce back from that after only playing 27 games his rookie year to come back in his sophomore year and play 75 games and start 64 of those games at that. But then after that, it got hit with a amount of injuries after injuries after injuries. When you look at the 2019-20 season, he only played 32 games. Then he was out of basketball for 2 years and did not return back until the 2022-23 season, where he did play 11 games. Now, he suffered another injury there. And then that brings us to this season for Jonathan Isaac, playing in 46 games, already the second most of his NBA career, albeit only still 26 years old. And while that offensive upside that people once expected, in a lot of ways, Jonathan Isaac was kind of expected to be exactly what Paolo Banchero is, maybe to a lesser degree, right? Especially when you draft a player number 6 overall to the Orlando Magic, but the Magic have stuck by him. And with that said, he now has boasted a pretty solid season this year. Is it at anywhere close to what the expectations or what that potential for him was when he came into the league? No. But when you look at what Jonathan Isaac has turned into defensively, especially when he's on the court for the Orlando Magic have a positive point differential of plus 11. The true rebounding numbers go up. The offensive rating goes up by considerable margins. The rebounding rate goes up. Basically what that is that when Jonathan Isaac is on the basketball court, he is making an impact and making that felt for his team. And that's not something that you can overlook, right? You can't overlook that at all. I really like the way that Jonathan Isaac has just turned into a player that just kind of understands what he can and can't do for this Orlando Magic team. And because of the other young talent around the team, he's not asked to do a whole hell of a lot offensively. But even with that said, his splits aren't terrible. His numbers overall, he's not averaging a lot of points, only 6.5 per game, but he's shooting the ball 50% from the field, 36% from three-point range. And in a year where, you're hoping and trying to see if he's going to be able to stay healthy and really impact the game of basketball for you, Jonathan Isaac is showing a lot in this season for the Orlando Magic. And then when you look at where the Orlando Magic also sit in the standings, being one of the top teams and avoiding that play-in tournament so far are the Orlando Magic, Jonathan Isaac does have a part in helping the Magic have that record. And you got to give credit where credit's due to the season and to the fact that Jonathan Isaac stuck with it. And so, he's not going to probably ever turn into the player that people thought he once was going to be, but he still turned into a damn good player for the Orlando Magic. the next player that I want to talk about is Dante Exum. When the Dallas Mavericks brought Dante Exum back to the NBA, it was something that not a lot of people expected at all, right? To hear that name of Dante Exum, somebody who came into the NBA with Kobe Bryant comparisons to Dante Exum, and never hit those, right? But much like Jonathan Isaac, Dante Exum has turned himself into a damn good passer and defender, right? He's a solid defender overall. The point differential when he's on the court is positive. The offensive rating goes up by 8.7. The defensive rating gets better. On top of that, he's absolutely helped this team play effectively. And you cannot deny the way that Dante Exum makes an impact for that Dallas Mavericks team. Again, he's never turned into the scorer that people once hoped or thought that he would turn into, but he has turned into a positive defender, a player that clearly has a role and can contribute to most NBA teams on top of all those things, playing really well for that Dallas Mavericks team and what he's asked to do. And that's something that you look at, right? Is the role that you're asked to do, how well do you play in that role? Dante Exum plays damn good in that role. And he's no slouch, averaging 8.3 points per game, which is the highest of his NBA career, right? Especially after going away for 2 years, coming back, shooting the ball 55% overall from the field, understanding where and when, and just the basketball IQ has risen so much for him. Shooting the ball 47% from three, only taking 2 3-pointers per game, but still being able to do that as well. Averaging 2.5 rebounds, 3 assists per game, all that and only playing 19 minutes per game. Dante Exum has turned himself into a really solid role player in the NBA. And again, that's perfectly fine. Everybody doesn't have to turn into a star. So got to give Dante Exum credit for who and what he's been able to turn into on the NBA level, at least in my opinion. The next player that I want to talk about is Dennis Smith Jr. Now, this is a guy who kind of started showing some things when he made his initial return with the Charlotte Hornets last season, playing 54 games for them, averaging 8.8 points per game. But he came now playing with the Brooklyn Nets, playing 52 games for them so far, only starting 2 games and only playing 19 minutes. But again, he's a player that's shown an ability to be one of the better perimeter defenders, a point of attack defenders, I should say, at the guard position. He's just a really good point of attack defender, and he's carved out a very nice role for himself as well. And like the metrics that I'm looking at and using for most of these players that we're talked about, and when his on and off court numbers are great for what the Brooklyn Nets have done. Now, the Brooklyn Nets have disappointed in a lot of ways, right? And there's something to be said about that. But I love the career, the season that Dante Exum is having the Brooklyn Nets having an overall positive rating of 5.5 when he's on the court versus when he's off the court. That's how much he's affecting the game of basketball, especially defensively for that team. And, again, it's something to be said about players that are able to go away, transform their game, and then come back. And one thing you're going to notice about a lot of the players on this list, they've really turned into being able to impact the game defensively for their respective teams. And Dennis Smith Jr. has definitely done that for the Brooklyn Nets. And then the last player that I want to talk about is a player that I am very familiar with. If you guys don't know, I am a Chicago Bulls fan. I do host Chicago Bulls Central, by the way, if you guys are Bulls fans and want to check out some daily Chicago Bulls content. But Chris Dunn is a player that kind of always had it defensively. Now, when he was initially drafted by the Minnesota Timberwolves, people had hopes that he was going to develop into a nice two-way player, right? And then when he was traded for the Chicago Bulls, who, by the way, the Bulls almost traded Jimmy Butler straight up for the chance to draft Chris Dunn the year prior, he was kind of one of the biggest parts of that chip that the Chicago Bulls were looking forward to getting. Zach LaVine was really there to make the contracts work. But Chris Dunn, who has averaged, especially his time for the Chicago Bulls, those first 2 seasons, 13 and 11 points per game. But you look at what he did for the Utah Jazz last year, making his return to the NBA after being gone for most of the season, but then came back, played 22 games for them, averaged 13.2 points per game on 53% shooting from the field, and he also averaged 1.5 steals per game. And that's where Chris Dunn always makes things special. He is a player that understands how to go about things defensively. And now, this season, playing in 59 games for the Utah Jazz, starting 30 games for that. Yeah, he's only averaging 5.4 points per game for sure, but he's still shooting the ball 47% from the field, taking 5 shots per game, basically, and 39% from 3. He's also chipping in 3 rebounds, 4 assists, right over a steal and a half per game. He is affecting the game of basketball. And again, kind of the theme of this defensively, he's having a big payoff for the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz, when he's on the court, for example, have a better point differential of +7. That's the game. And again, those things aren't everything. You got to put those into perspective, absolutely. But He's playing really well for the Utah Jazz team. The assist ratio, the offensive rating, the rebounding ratio. He is finding a way to impact the game all throughout the game of basketball, and that's something you can't take away from Chris Dunn. But these are the players that I look at the most and say they've really not turned their career around, but they are beating the label of being outright called bust. They are players that are contributing, they're helping their team win, and they're having an impact on the basketball court. But let me know what you guys think down below. What are some of the other players that you think this season, particularly this season, who have been given that bust label before, who have kind of proven that wrong? And who are some of the players that have been given it that you think can prove it wrong later down the road? Other than that, make sure you guys are following the channel at NBA Central Pod. Hit that subscribe button as well. In return for that, hitting that subscribe button, we will be providing daily content for you about a multitude of topics around the NBA and maybe even some college basketball as well on top of all of that. So make sure you guys are following the channel. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBACentralPod@gmail.com. And then lastly, NBA Central Show @gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything basketball related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, hey, I'll see you guys next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.